Hello guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. If you are new to my channel, please subscribe to my channel, like this video and press the bell icon. An API, Application Programming Interface, is a set of rules and protocols that allows different software applications to communicate with each other. A weather app on your phone fetches data from a weather API to display current conditions in your location. Online stores use APIs from payment providers like PayPal or Stripe to process payments. REST is a design standard for building scalable and efficient web services. A REST API provides a way for applications to communicate over the internet using HTTP methods: get, post, put, delete, etc. Laravel is a powerful framework that provides a comprehensive set of features for developing APIs, including RESTful APIs. In this video, we'll learn how to create a fully functional RESTful API using Laravel 11 that performs CRUD operations. CRUD stands for create, read, update, and delete. These are the essential operations for interacting with any database in a web application. Whether you're building a backend for a web or mobile app, understanding how to implement these operations is a critical skill for any developer. First, let's install Laravel. Go to the directory where you want to install Laravel. Right-click and select Open in Terminal to open the terminal. To install Laravel, we will use Laravel installer. So, if you haven't downloaded Laravel installer, you can install it using the command composer global require laravel/installer. Now, type the command laravel new, your project name, and press enter. You will be prompted for a starter kit. Simply type none and press enter. Next, you will be prompted to choose a testing framework. Type 0 for PEST or 1 for PHP unit. Now for Git repository, type no and press enter. It will take some time to download, depending on your internet connection, so please wait for the download to complete. Next, you will be asked to choose a database for your app. Since we will be using MySQL, type MySQL and press enter. Now you will be prompted to migrate the database. Since we will do this later, type no and press enter. The necessary dependencies are being installed. Please wait for a while. The download is complete. Now type the command cd your project name and press enter to navigate to the project directory. Open your project in Visual Studio Code. Now, we need to create a database. Open.env file. Copy this database name. Open XAMPP server and start Apache and MySQL. Go to your browser and open phpMyAdmin. Click on New. Paste the database name and click on Create to create the database. The database has been created. We will migrate the database later. Go back to Visual Studio Code. Open the routes folder, and you'll notice that the api.php file is missing. This is because, by default, Laravel 11 does not include API routes. Go to the Release Notes section in Laravel 11 documentation. Scroll down. Here you will see that the api.php and channels.php route files are no longer present by default, as many applications do not require these files. We need to use the below command to install the API scaffolding. Copy this command. Go back to Visual Studio Code. Click here and open a new terminal. Paste the command which you have copied and press enter. Now, you will be asked to migrate the database. Type yes and press enter to migrate the database. The database has been migrated. you can see that personal access token table has been added. Moreover, there is a message which says, API scaffolding installed. Go to your browser and reload the page and you will see all the tables. Go back to Visual Studio Code. Since we are building a REST API, we need a controller that handles only API logic. This type of controller does not include the create and edit methods, which are typically used for HTML form views. In your terminal, type the command php artisan help make controller and press enter. You will see all the available options that can be used with the command to create the controller. We will use the first option, --API, which exclude the create and edit methods from the controller. Type the command php artisan make controller post controller --API and press enter. Postcontroller.php file has been created inside app http controllers folder. Open this file. Here, you will see all the methods except create and edit. Now, we need to create the post model and migration. Type the command php artisan make model post-m and press enter. This command will generate a post.php model and a migration file for the posts table. The post model and create posts migration files have been created. Open create posts migration file which is inside database migrations folder. Open post.php file. Now, let's add the columns for the posts table. First, add a title column of type string, and then add a body column of type text. Next, we need to migrate the database. In your terminal, type the command php artisan migrate and press enter to migrate the database. The database has been migrated. Go to your browser and reload the page and you will see that the posts table has been added in the database. Now, let's add the logic for storing the post in the posts table. Open postcontroller.php file. First, we will use Laravel's validator class to validate the incoming request data and store the result in the $validator variable. Import validator class. The make method takes two parameters, the data to validate, retrieved from $requestAll, and an array of validation rules. Add validation rules for the title. It is required, must be a string, at least 3 characters long, and no more than 255 characters. Next, add validation rules for the body. It is required, must be a string and at least 5 characters long. Next, we will check if the validation fails using the fails method. If it does, it returns a JSON response with status, false indicating the operation was unsuccessful, a message to inform the user that all fields are required. The errors key contains detailed validation error messages. The response is sent with a 422 status code, which indicates an unprocessable entity. Now, we will use the create method and pass all the request data using $requestAll method to populate the post model and store the result in the $post variable. Import post model. Then, return a JSON response indicating that the post has been successfully created. It includes status, true to indicate a successful operation. A message saying post created successfully. The data key contains the newly created $post object. The response is sent with a 201 status code, indicating that the post was successfully created. Here, we first validate the incoming request data using the validator class. Next, we check if the validation fails using the fails method. Then, we use the create method to store the post in the posts table. Finally, we return a JSON response indicating that the post has been successfully created. Now, we need to add route for the post method. Open api.php file. Instead of adding separate routes for each method, we will use the API resource route, which automatically creates routes for all standard CRUD operations. The API resource method automatically creates routes for all standard CRUD operations such as index, store, show, update, and destroy for the posts resource, following RESTful conventions. It maps the routes to the corresponding methods in the post controller. Import post controller. Click here and select Command Prompt to open a new command prompt. Now, type the command, php artisan route : list to display all the routes. You can see a list of all the routes for the posts resource, including routes for displaying, creating, updating, and deleting posts. These routes are automatically generated by the API resource method we used earlier. For the store method, we will use the API/posts endpoint with the post HTTP method. Next, we need to specify which fields can be mass assigned in the post model. To do this, we will add the title and body properties to the fillable array. Open the post model and add these properties to the fillable array. The browser supports only the GET method. So, we will use Postman as a tool to test and interact with APIs. It allows us to send various types of HTTP requests such as GET, POST, PUT, DELETE, etc. to our API and check the responses. Postman enables us to test methods beyond GET. It's especially helpful in testing and debugging API endpoints without needing a front-end or browser. You can download Postman from the postman.com website. While there are other tools available for testing API endpoints, for this tutorial, I will be using Postman. After downloading Postman, sign up using your email and password. Once signed up, open Postman. Click on the plus icon and select Blank Collection to create a new collection. Add the collection name as Laravel 11 API or any name you prefer. To add a request, click on Add a Request or hover over the Laravel 11 API collection name. You will see 3 dots appear, click on them to see the options. From there, select Add Request. Rename the request with Create Post. In the route list, you can see that for storing a post, the method is post, and the API endpoint is API/posts. Before testing the API endpoints, make sure to start your application using the command, php artisan serve. Go back to Postman. First choose the post method and then add the API endpoint, localhost :8000/API/posts. To add the data, click on the Body tab. You can either use form data or raw to input the data. In this tutorial, we will use raw, so click on raw. Now, to add the data in JSON format, start by adding curly braces. Then, add the title key in double quotes, followed by a colon, and leave the value blank in double quotes. This will allow us to test the validation. Next, add the body key in double quotes, followed by a colon, and leave the value blank in double quotes. Click on the Send button, and you will see the response with status code 422, unprocessable content, status, false, message, all fields are required, and error messages. The title field is required and the body field is required. This indicates that the validation rules are working as expected. Next, add a value to the title key and leave the body key blank. Then click on the Send button and you will see the error message, the body field is required. Now, add a value to the body key. Then click on the Send button. The status is 200 OK, but there is no response. Go to phpMyAdmin and check the posts table. You will see that it is empty. Let's check the code. Go back to Visual Studio Code. The code for creating the post and returning the response is placed inside the if block that checks if the validation fails. Remove the ending curly brace after the validation check and place it just before the create method, so that the validation logic is properly completed before the post is created. Go back to Postman. Now click on the Send button and you will see the response with a status code of 201 created, status, true, message, post created successfully, along with the post data in JSON format, including title, body, created _at, updated _at, and ID. Go to phpMyAdmin and reload the page, and you will see that the data has been inserted into the posts table. To control which fields are returned in the response, we will use Laravel's resource classes to customize the data, ensuring that only the necessary fields are included in the response. We will create a resource class called postResource. Open your terminal. Click here and select Command Prompt to open a new command prompt. Now, type the command, php make, :resource, postResource and press Enter. This command will create postResource.php class inside app, http, resources folder. Open postResource.php class. Here, in the toArray method, it returns the model's default data by calling the parent toArray method. Remove it as we will customize it to include or exclude fields as needed. Here, we will return the post's ID, title, and body with custom keys, post_ID, post_title, and post_body. Open postcontroller.php file. Here, replace $post with new postResource, which is an instance of the postResource class, and pass $post inside the parentheses. This ensures the returned data includes only the necessary fields with custom key names like post_ID, post_title, and post_body. Make sure to import the postResource class. Go back to Postman. Now, add new values to the title and body keys and click on the Send button. You will see the response with a status code of 201 created, status, true, message, post created successfully, along with the post data in JSON format, including ID, title, and body with custom keys post_ID, post_title, and post_body. Notice that this time, created _at and updated _at are not displayed. Next, we will implement the show functionality to retrieve and display a single post based on its ID. This will allow us to fetch the details of a specific post from the database and return the response in JSON format, using the post resource to ensure only the necessary fields with custom key names are included in the response. First, we will find the post by its ID and store the result in the $post variable. Then, if the post is not found, we will return a JSON response with a status code of 404 not found, status, false, and the message post not found. Next, if the post is found, we will return a JSON response with a status code of 200 OK, status, true, and the message post retrieved successfully. The data key will include the post details formatted using the postResource class, ensuring only the necessary fields with custom keys are returned. Here, we first find the post by its ID. If the post is not found, we return a JSON response with a 404 status code and an appropriate message. If the post is found, we return a 200 status code with the post details formatted using the post resource class. Go back to Postman. Hover over the collection name, then click on the three dots. Now click on Add Request. Replace the request name with read post. Add the API endpoint, localhost :8000/API/posts. Then, add /1 to the endpoint URL, where 1 is the post ID. Keep the method as get since we are fetching the post from the database. Now click on the Send button and you will see the JSON response for the post with ID 1. The response will have a status code of 200 OK, status, true, message, post retrieved successfully, and the post data in JSON format with the custom keys. Now, change the ID from 1 to 2 in the API endpoint and click on the Send button. This will fetch the post with ID 2 instead of ID 1. Now, change the ID from 2 to 3 in the API endpoint. Since there is no post with ID 3 in the database, you will receive a response with a status code of 404 not found, status, false, and message, post not found. Click on Save to save both the requests. Now, let's implement the functionality for updating the post. Since the validation logic for updating a post is similar to that in the store method, we will reuse the same validation code. This ensures that the data being updated meets the required criteria. Copy the validation code and paste it inside the update method. Next, we will find the post by its ID and store the result in the $post variable. Then we use the update method on the existing $post object to update its fields with the new data from the request. Copy the code from the show method. Paste the code after the update post code. Replace retrieved with updated and keep the other data the same. Here, we first validate the incoming request data using the validator class. Next, we check if the validation fails using the fails method. Then we find the post by its ID. Next we use the update method to update the post with the new data from the request. Finally, after updating the post, we return a JSON response indicating that the post has been updated successfully. Open the terminal where the route list is displayed. Here, you can see that the API endpoint to update the post is API/post/post with the method put or patch. Go to Postman. Hover over the collection name, then click on the three dots. Now click on Add Request. Rename the request as Update Post. Now, add the API endpoint localhost :8000/API/posts. Replace ID 3 with ID 2. Change the method from get to put. Next, click on the Body tab. Add the title and body keys and leave their values blank in both, as we will test the validation. Click on the Send button, and you will see the response with status code 422, unprocessable content, status, false, message, all fields are required, and error messages. The title field is required and the body field is required. This indicates that the validation rules are working as expected. Add value to the title key and keep the body key blank. Click on the Send button and you will see the error message, the body field is required. Now add value to the body key also and then click on the Send button. You will see the response with a status code of 200 OK, status, true, message, post updated successfully, along with the updated post data in JSON format, including the custom keys. Go to PHP My Admin and reload the page and you will see that the post with ID 2 has been updated. Now, change the ID to 3, which does not exist in the database. Change the values in both title and body keys. Now click on the Send button. It displays a 500 internal server error. Go back to Visual Studio Code. Here, before updating the post, we need to check if the post exists. If it's not found, we will return a JSON response with a status code of 404 not found, status, false, and the message post not found. Go to the show method and copy this code. Paste the code before the update method. Go back to Postman. Click on the Send button and you will receive a response with status code of 404 not found, status, false and message, post not found. Now, let's implement the delete functionality. Go back to Visual Studio Code. Copy this code. Paste the copied code here. We first find the post by its ID. Then we check if the post exists in the database or not. Next, replace update with the delete method and remove $request_all method. Then replace updated with deleted in the message. Remove this line of code. Next, replace date with data. Go back to Postman. Hover over the collection name, then click on the 3 dots. Now click on Add Request. Rename the request as Delete Post. Add the API endpoint and change the method to delete. Now click on the Send button and you will see the response status, false and message, post not found. Next, change the ID to 2 and then click on the Send button and you will see the response with status code 200, status, true and message post deleted successfully. Go to phpMyAdmin and reload the page and you will see that the post with ID 2 has been deleted from the posts table. Now, let's implement the functionality to display all the posts. Here, I have added some posts to the posts table. Go back to Visual Studio Code. In the index method, first we use the post_all method to retrieve all posts from the database and store them in the $posts variable. Then, we return a JSON response with a status code of 200 OK, status, true, message, posts retrieved successfully, and the list of posts. Each post is transformed using the post_resource_collection method to ensure that only the necessary fields with custom keys are included in the response. Now, go back to Postman. Hover over the collection name, then click on the 3 dots. Now click on Add Request. Add the API endpoint. Rename the request as Show All Posts. Keep the method as Get and remove the post ID 2. Now click on the Send button, and you will see the JSON response with a status code of 200, status, true, message, posts retrieved successfully, and all the posts with their post IDs, titles, and bodies. Now, let's see how to include pagination in the JSON response. Go back to Visual Studio Code. Duplicate this code and comment the first one. Replace the all method with paginate and pass 5 in the parentheses to limit the results to 5 posts per page. Cut this code. Add an array. Inside this array add the key posts and then paste the code which you have copied. Next, add a comma. Then, add the pagination key with an array, and in this array, set its value to another array containing details such as total, per_page, current_page, last_page, next_page_URL, and prev_page_URL, using the respective methods from the $posts object. Go back to Postman. Now, click on the Send button, and you will see 5 posts per page along with the pagination links at the bottom. Here is the link to go to the next page. After the API endpoint, add $page equals 2 and click on the Send button to go to the next page. Here, you can see the other posts along with the pagination links at the bottom. Here, you can see that the total number of posts is 9, with 5 posts per page, the current page is 2, the last page is 2, and there is a link to navigate to the previous page. Click on Save to save the request. In this video, we learned how to create a REST API CRUD application using Laravel 11. We also covered how to implement validation and pagination. Additionally, we used Laravel resource classes to format the JSON responses, making the data more readable and structured. If you found this tutorial helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more tutorials like this. Thanks for watching, and happy coding! I will see you in next tutorial. Till then, stay safe.